Welcome to today's class. Today we are going to be drafting the sleeve block. The sleeve block is very fundamental, especially when complementing the bodice block we have already drafted. For any kind of dress, whether a shirt for a male person like I am, or for a female person, a blouse, whatever it is, the sleeve is very important to ensure ease of movement of the upper part of the dress. The first thing we are going to do is to identify the measurements. We'll be taking 6 of them. The first, we've not done any of this in class before. So we'll be starting from the shoulder. The shoulder is that joint of the hand to the trunk of the body. From there, we are going to be measuring to the bicep, from the shoulder to the elbow, and from the shoulder to the wrist. Also, we'll be measuring the circumference of the bicep, of the elbow, and of the wrist. So I'll be using the figure of a real person to measure the 6 measurements, and then we'll be recording them for our drafting. So to start with, the figure raises the hand, and then I can notice the point of the shoulder. So from here over to this fullest part of the hand, that is 8 inches. So shoulder to bicep is 8 inches. And then I need you to put your hand around your waist. So with this, I measure to the person's elbow. To the elbow here is 13.5 inches. And then as it moves from there down to the wrist, this is 24.5 inches. So the next measurement will be to take the circumference of the 3 important points of the hand. So we will begin from the bicep, for this figure, the bicep is 11 inches. Then for the elbow is 10.5 inches. And for the wrist measurement is 7 inches. Alright, so these measurements we are going to be transferring to our drawing book and later to the brown paper. So let's get to it. Now, this is the measurements that has been recorded. This will inform what we are going to construct on the drawing book. Now let's get to it. First, we have to determine the length of the sleeve this way, landscape. So I have the person's shoulder to wrist is 24.5 inches. So that's, I want to confirm if I can get up to that here. And I don't know how long your hand can be. Your brown paper, your drawing book rather, should be able to take that. Here is almost 29 centimeters plus. Do you remember that we are using a centimeter to represent an inch? So what I will begin to do is first, at a convenient point, I want you to first fold in this paper into 2, into a perfect half, because whenever you are going to also be drafting this on the brown envelope, you will be needing it to be folded into 2 this way. So what I've done here, let me just bring it up again, and that will form the point of my drawings. So to start with my ruler, at this center, I will give an allowance to the top of about 2 centimeters. So from 2 centimeters, I'm going to be taking the figures shoulder to wrist 24.5. So from here, 24.5 plus 2 will be 26.5. So to this point, and then we'll join. Now, what I've drawn here, this point at the top will be named point A, and this point here will be point B. With what we have here, I will want to square the same thing to these ends. So, from here to here is 2 inches, 2 centimeters on the drawing book. So we'll do the same thing here. 2 centimeters in, and to this point 26.5, that is represent 24.5, because I already added 2 at the top. So what I have here, I would be drawing out just to create a rectangular frame. So this, from this point and this point, square out, then come to this, the base as well, from this point through these other points, then square out. This is where we are going to be constructing the sleeve. But what we need next is to determine the distance of different points. For a sleeve, there are 4 basic lines that are important. The shoulder line here, this is the wrist line. We also have to determine where the bicep line will be and where the elbow line will be. So from the measurements we have here, from shoulder to bicep is 8 inches. So we'll measure that down from point A. So from point A down, that will be 8 inches. Then from shoulder to the elbow, that will be 13.5 inches. And we already have the shoulder to wrist, which is what informed the length of the block originally. So what I have at this end, I will transfer here too. So here I would need first to indicate 8 inches, then 13.5 inches, and we will square out this point. So from here to this point, we'll draw out. From here through these other points, we will here and here will draw out. Now, what we have determined here happens to be the shoulder line, the bicep line, the elbow line, and the wrist line. Now, from here, we would proceed to determine how wide each of this line is going to be before we form the straight line of the arm. So before I move on, I would name this point C and point D. But from what we have here, we have to do some calculation. Here, the bicep, which we are going to be determining here, is going to be half of what will be the full sleeve. So what we'll do is to determine this 11 inches divided by 2. So that is 11 divided by 2 plus 2 inches. We see what that will be. For the elbow, it will be 10.5 divided by 2 plus 1 inch. And this will be 7 divided by 2 plus 1 inch. So 11 divided by 2, that will be 5.5 plus 2 inches. That will give us 7.5 inches. 11.5 divided by 2 will give us 5.25 plus 1 inch. That will give to us 6.25 inches. Here, this figure, there is an issue with what we have here, because there is already something that is taken in very much here. If we have 7 and 7 divided by 2, that will be 3.5 plus 1 inch to give us 4.5 inch. What we have here, when we transfer it to the pattern, you will see that we may have needs to do a little modification, especially around the elbow line. But let us get into this first. So here where we have the bicep, we are going to move into the bicep with 7.5 inches. So here will be 7.5. Then we move in at the elbow line with 6.25. So this is 6.25. 25 will be in between 1, 2, before 3, in between. That is where the point will be. And when you come to drawing on the brown paper, 6.25 will be, okay, let me use the tape measure to illustrate that. 6.25 is a quarter. So this is going to be 6.25. This is 6, this is 7, this is 6.5, this is 6.25. So here we have indicated that, and for the wrist, that will be 4.5. So 4.5, that is, we use a centimeter here. So 4.5 we end here. Now, what we have gotten here, I will call it our point E. This will be point F, and this will be point G. So if you try to connect from E to F to G, you will observe that it is not possible to connect them with one straight line. So we will first connect with E, from E to F. Let me connect with a dotted line, and then from F to G. We are going to see how the dotted line looks like. If it will not be very conspicuous, we may leave it, but if it is, then we need to have a short in between. Well, what we have on the paper is still appearing straight, so we will leave it as this. So I will just square this out completely from F to G with a straight line, and from E to F with a straight line. Now, if there is a sharp moving in at this point, perhaps for somebody who does gymnastics very well and has very high bicep, then we need to create a small compromise in between here, not directly connecting E to G, but just in between to create, because if you connect E to G straight off, then the pulses at the forearm here, the pulses close to be very wide. Now, what we have here is almost done, but we need to determine what the edge of the sleeve will look like. So what we need to do at this point is to connect from A to E, from point A to E with a straight line. And now we will be dividing that line into two. What I have here is 11 inches, that is 11 centimeters, and the half of 11 centimeters is 5.5. So mark that out, that will be our point H. Now the half of between points H and E, between point H and E, we'll be marking out half of that as well. So half of that, 5.5, the half of 5.5 will be 2.75. So 2.75 will be after 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.75. So that will be the point I. Now what I have here, I'm going to be squaring out from H up by half an inch, that is half a centimeter. So I position that from here, just half. So I want to make sure that this straight line aligns with this, so that I know I'm having a straight line. I move the ruler close to the mark. So to this point, and I'll call that point, that new point, point J. Point J. Now from I here, we'll be squaring down. Now, don't forget that I've asked you originally to fold this thing in, because we'll be constructing half of the sleeve. So what will happen is, we will be constructing the front and the back of the sleeve together on this one pattern. But by the time we transfer it to the brown paper and we cut out, you will discover that the back will always be lifted with 1/4 inch than the front. So what I will do at point I here is, from here I will be needing to move by both 1/4 inch and half an inch. 1/4 inch will be 1, 2.5, then here. So these two new points we have, let's connect them with a straight line from this point I to this. Now this is where work will now come to using our French cuff. This requires a dexterity. Someone like me may want to use just a broom, but if you are not able to use a broom, but something like this, you are still good to go. You want to make sure that what you are drawing is a curve flowing from A through J to touch this line, and do your best as much as possible to make sure that the line you are touching is not too close to I, Now here, if I have to go again and again and again, maybe a good point I will have is something like this, from A through J to this point. So make sure it ends on this straight line. Now this is the first part of the curve. Now for the back is the one that is raised, the one with the point here. We will try with another curve to see if we can have a point move through this to this point, and make sure that the line is reasonable, not upward, so that it can appear as if it is flowing here to this point. So from here through this line to this point. This is what the sleeve edge looks like for the back. But for the front, we'll be taken through this line back to the same point. If you try this other curve, you will find it difficult to join the line. You may and you may not, depending on the measurement and where we are able to arrive. I guess maybe one way I can get this. I think I'm almost there. Now if I drop from this plate to this plate, I'm likely to miss out from that angle. So let me move it a little more. Yeah. So I need to connect from this point. Now I will not be getting to this point. So if that is not working, then I will try out another curve. And this appears to be working. So I need to connect from here through this place to this place. Then be careful so that you are not having too sharp a curve here. So from this end through this point to this point. Now what I've drawn is going to be, this is for the front, this is for the back. With this, the pattern is already drafted. So what you have here is what we'll be transferring to the brown paper, exactly like it has been done, following the regular instructions that we always had. However, when we are done, in fact, just construct this, and on your brown paper, if now you want to position your brown paper, let's see how that will be. Look first is just like it is going to be portrait this way. The first thing I want to ensure is that for the measurements, the shoulder to wrist for this person is 24. For a taller person, it will be more. So I can have enough here. And then the width should be the person's, the measurement you have at the bicep here is 7.5 inches. So what I need there is around 7.5. So with this, I can have as much as I need. But to save the brown paper, I will just measure that 7.5 and add just a few inches, say 1.5 inches, that is up to 9. So it is at this point 9 inches that I will fold in the brown paper. This is going to make the work economical. So the sleeve that will be constructed on this. Now, don't forget where we began. The first thing is the measurements of the person from shoulder to wrist is 24.5 inches. So let me leave half an inch, 2 inches to the top, just for neatness, and then 24.5 we get to this point, 26.5. Then let me measure from this side again. So I have 2 inches. I'll be needing the long ruler now. Then here I'll be hanging at 26.5 inches. So what I've marked out at the top here is going to end up being our shoulder line, and this is going to be the wrist line. So from here through this other line, I just hope that you are going to see it very clearly. I'm making it sharp so that it can be obvious. Then clean out the excess. Yeah. Then at this other end, from this point to this point here. Now what we have already, now what I have here is this kind of frame, but don't forget that there is an excess that we already have at this point. So what I will do is from here, I will take the measurement of what it is from shoulder to bicep. The person's shoulder to bicep is 8 inches. So let me just use this to mark it out. So 8 inches gets here. To the elbow, that is 13.5 inches. So I'll mark out the same thing here. 8 inches here. And 13.5 inches here. Now what I have here, I will have to determine where this will end. And don't forget that the biggest measurement we'll be needing actually is going to be for the bicep. What we're taking at the bicep line here, that is 7.5 inches. So I'll measure that in 7.5 inches. We'll end here. So on this brown paper now, just mark that 7.5 inches across, because we are going to be squaring it down from the top. 7.5 inches. Yeah. So I will be joining from the top to the wrist line. Okay. From here to here. Now, what I have here is what I have here. So from this now, this is already 7.5. This is where the sleeve edge would be, and then it will come out. But the other thing is to determine how to take in at the elbow. So at this elbow, I will be needing 6.25. This is 6.25. So from here to this point, and then at the wrist, we'll be needing 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches. So we are going to be joining from here to this point to this point. So from now, this is the arm of the person already indicated. From here, we'll be determining what the measurement will be to this point. Now, don't forget the way we have numbered. So, this will be, now we'll be reversing what we have here. So, here we have A, here we'll be having the B, C, D, then E is here, L is here, and G is here. So what we have here now will be to connect points E and A with a straight line. Then the middle of this point, we have to indicate it. This is 11. So the middle is, usually there are several ways for a seamstress or a seamstress or seamster. It may just be just putting this halfway and taking note that this is the half. But in the same way, it is possible for us to, when we know that this is 11, half of 11 is 5.5, so it's still the same point. Then when we have determined this, from this point down, we also need to determine the half of 5.5. Half of 5.5 will be 2.75 at that point. So what we'll be doing is to mark out here half an inch up, and then here we'll be marking down first 1/4 of an inch and half of an inch. So then it comes to the use of our, at this point we may not be able to use this cuff because it is not likely to give us what we need. So what I may need to use now will be the broom. So let me demonstrate the use of that. So let me make a trial of drawing here through this point A and this point here to reach this line. So I will be having this. Then to draw through this line, I may have to use another, if this is not going to work. Okay. Through this point, this. Okay, then to join for the, this is going to be for the back, for the front, which will go down a little from this same point. All right, so our French curve is going to still serve its purpose. Through this. So this is what the sleeve head is going to be. So having drawn this, now for this pattern, and it remains for the skirt pattern as well, which you are yet to submit as at now, and for the remaining trouser block, indicates the place of fold. You see, this what we have here is a place that is folded. So indicate it with its proper arrow. This. Then indicate the straight grain. This is going to be the straight grain. So you position it this way. Then at the end of this point, we'll be having a notch. Just indicate it. So with this, the sleeve block is ready to be cut out. This is where your work should stop. Don't cut it out. By the time we come for the other practical work in class, then we'll be seeing what this sleeve will be turning out to be by the time we are opening it up. So when we open it up like this, we'll be having a full sleeve, but one of them will be cut at this end, one of them will be cut at this other end.